focus, please. Oh, don't you love it when everything just about goes and works out as you expect it to? Welcome everybody to another episode of Aligned Within from the Aligned Within channel. And today's episode is very much ad hoc, I'd say. So I've been in touch with an amazing guy, a friend of mine, who said he would pop up, and we did an interview about where he came from and how he got to where he is now. And it's an interesting story. He's a proper guy, you know what I mean? He's a man's man, and you know what I mean? He's a man's man, and he'll probably do me in for doing that accent. But yeah, we'll speak to him later, and you'll see the guy I'm talking about. So today we're going to jump off our topics, which is all being about relationships, and we've decided that we're going to do an ad hoc episode, which basically means there's no script at all that we're going to go by. So it's very run-of-the-mill. What you see is what you get. And the reason for that is we got in touch with this special guest who's a really good friend of mine, and we decided, let's change it up a bit, because there is a point where there is only so many things about a certain topic that you can listen to, that you can try and take on board, whether you take something away from it or nothing away from it. It's not for everyone. There's a time that you need to just switch it up, change it about. It's like when you play cards, let's play another game, because there's only so many times you can play poker and you just go all I see is numbers, so let's change it. And also I'd like to where I've mentioned in the description, I said it's all about me. It is and it isn't, and I'll tell you why. I think it's about time that you know who I am, know what I do, because there are plenty of people that do that from day one, and that's perfectly fine, that's understandable. But I do find once they tell me what they're about, I tend to just keep that focused in my mind and then listen to them and try to relate to what they've told me they do, what they are, into the information that they start to produce, and sometimes I get lost. So I've decided that it's about time, and we're about 8 episodes in, that maybe you might be interested in what I actually do. So on some of the episodes, Tracy and I have mentioned what we do, but not into great detail. So who am I, where did it come from? So my name's Carl James. If you don't know, it's in the white and blue writing that's right in front of you. And I started getting into all sorts of therapies in 1987, 88. And the reason I got into them was I studied a martial arts with a guy, and he was very spiritual. And at that time, he took me and my partner, we went away for the weekend to I would say is a derelict building. I think it used to be a church, going back a time. And we decided that, or he decided, he was going to try and get us to have that experience of the spiritualism and the vibrations and things. And like most people, I just stood there and went, I didn't get anything. But what I did get is to learn how to do guided meditations. So that came about when we used to do the martial arts sessions. At the end of it, we did guided meditations. And I'd never experienced anything like this before, and I found it really interesting. And yet I did find it difficult not to fall asleep. That's the general thing when you do lie down and you're chilled out, is that sometimes you start snoring. Big giveaway that you fell asleep. But I was amazed by it, and I thought, you know what, it does bring in images, and it takes you to places that ordinarily you wouldn't have gone to. So I thought, yeah, I like this. At that time, in around 1990, I moved to Brighton, down south, to do some work down there. I ended up working in bars. I worked at Sussex University in the bars there. There's a pub and a bar. And anyone from there who was there at the time, it was known as the Airport Lounge, because that's basically what it was like. And the pub itself was like a traditional pub run by a guy called Alan. Now, it was interesting times, because I always find it entertaining when you speak to these students of such a higher level of education. I always find it quite interesting that you can always tell the first years, because the first years were the ones that were in the bars nearly every night getting hammered, and then trying to get up the next day to go and listen to whatever they needed to listen to that was a part of their degree. And then you had the 2-year ones, right? They're in the second year. They only attended the bar at the weekends. They then spent a bit of time studying or working somewhere else to get some money in. And usually they worked in the bars or cinemas or wherever. And then you get to meet the third years. The third years are the ones who absolutely crap themselves for realising that they wasted their time for the first 2 years. And now they've got to study really hard. And you don't see them as much in the bars. In fact, they kind of disappear in the ether. And that's it. So I always find that quite entertaining. You can work out which stage the students are at. And I thought it was great. And there was some really interesting people, some great people, and some idiots, as with anything that you find. But I ended up sort of meeting individually a group of people. Either because I was working with them behind bars, or I just met them because they spent that much time in the bar themselves. And I listened to them and the conversations that they had, and a lot of it was based around stress. Now, I thought stress does not help when you're trying to educate yourself, to learn things, to remember things, and then you go into doing your exams and doing dissertations, and your head's halfway up your backside and you're not quite sure what's going on. So I thought, well, okay, so if you alleviate stress, then maybe things will be better, things will be easier, and your scores will be higher. So I decided to use the only technique I knew at the time, which was guided meditation. So I invited the people that I knew to try guided meditations, mainly in the third year. Because, like I say, the first and second year was wasted through being sponged in alcohol and whatever. So it was pointless, really, trying to get to that level. So the third years, they were my target audience. And it was brilliant. It went really well. Those students that I used guided meditation on, they said that life was a little bit easier. They knew how to calm themselves down, and they knew how to focus on the study that they needed to. So I wasn't there long enough to see what the grades were, because at that point I decided I like this idea, guided meditations. So I'm getting through the mental side. What about the physical side? So at that time in 1991, I left Brighton and went to London, and I think the place was called something I can't remember, but there was a bridge there, and a big amber sea. And that's about as much as I can remember. It'll come back to me in a minute. So I went and learned massage. So I got into the physical side, and I learned with an amazing woman who spent most of her life in Africa, and that's where she studied and learned massage from a blind woman. So the lady that taught me, her name was Claire Maxwell Hudson. She's quite renowned in her industry, and she was amazing at the skills that she had. So I was partnered up with a lady called Melody Warren, and what a character. Her fella was a winner of the Tour de France, a yellow t-shirt guy, and they lived on the funny little island, what's it called, Jersey. Yeah, goes with the yellow jersey. They lived in Jersey. I went over there for the visit, and it was a nice place, pleasant, 5-minute walk to one end to the other, and the most amazing tidal movement you've ever seen. When the tide goes out there, the tide goes out there. It's like, where is it? It looked like barren land, but the place was, like I say, it was nice and friendly, and we partnered up to get into our studies for when we went back to London and do our exams. And it went down well. It was really good. So I decided I will come back from London and move to Liverpool. Now, I don't know if anyone knows, in the 1991-92, that if someone offers massage, it's not for the right reasons, and I got some horrendous telephone calls. So I chilled it down and decided to do voluntary work. So I'd done voluntary work with HIV and AIDS in Liverpool city centre for an organisation called Body Positive. I spent 12 months there, and again, meeting some amazing people, going through some difficult times and hard battles. But it's a wake-up call. Their lives and the battle to go through, it teaches you a lot about people and how they manage it. And at that time, in 91, 92, being told you were HIV positive and then obviously going into AIDS, it was basically a death sentence. No one ever saw anything different. Obviously, as time went on, they found ways of dealing with it. Not them as people who had HIV or AIDS, but the medical industry started to come up with ideas to help them out and to either slow it down, but then start to be coming to a stage where it was basically getting eradicated. You don't hear that much about it now, which is a good thing. So from there, I moved on. I tried going self-employed, and it just wasn't happening. So I went through a multitude of jobs whilst I was still looking for my feet. So at that point, I kept turning back to spiritualism, and I ended up going to a spiritual church. And as a fledgling medium, which is someone learning how to become a medium, I didn't do well with that either. And say, oh, you can see that person behind you, oh, look at that around you. I started thinking one of us was crazy, and 6 of them are saying they could see something, I couldn't see nothing. So I started thinking maybe I was crazy not seeing anything. So as again time goes on, and I started venturing into becoming an electrician by trade. So I pondered about doing that. It was okay, but I wasn't totally happy with it because it wasn't my calling. I would say I wasn't 100% what my calling was, but you do something, but you're just like, yeah, it kind of gets you by, but you're not sort of leaving thinking, wow, this is joyous, this is amazing. You haven't actually helped anyone. You might have cured an RCD that's tripped, you might have rewired a house, but you don't get the same satisfaction of when you do coaching. So again, time went on. I started then establishing myself back into looking at the techniques, and it took me some years. I ended up getting a machine that was called the Inner Quest, And it actually dated back to the 1980s, the actual machine. And there are other people out there that are saying that we're from America and we've designed this new thing. They haven't at all. They've tried to reinvent the wheel, and it came out the wheel. So they've copied someone else's design. I don't care what they say, and I can prove it because I have the original machine. And it's all about sending frequencies and beats, visually and auditory, through obviously your ears and your eyes. But what it does is, if I say to you, record your brain pattern when you're sleeping, and it will have particular waves of sleep, and it just does what it does. And you go, okay, record that. Now I want you to do some study. I want you to read a book, try to find a conundrum and try to solve it. Now while you're doing that, I want you to record your brain pattern. So your brain pattern will be going all over the place trying to solve this conundrum, this puzzle, a problem, or whatever it may be. So this machine basically had the recordings of people in these states of mind, and you play it back to yourself. It's not any one person's, it's a creation by the organisation that created the InnerQuest. And they decided that if, when you're studying, your brain is like that, tell me that you want to study, and when you're studying, I want you to listen to this. And it's the same frequency, the same brain patterns of someone studying. So what it then does is your brain tries to mirror it. It follows it. So when it's doing all that, your brain tries to do all that, and then it follows the pattern. And in a certain period of time, while you're using it, it then will precisely follow the pattern of someone learning, and your brain will go, yeah, okay, I'm now doing it. So now my brain's doing this. What am I doing it for? Well, I'm now going to start learning something. And my brain is already in that state, ready and prepped to do the learning. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And like I say, this was many years ago. It came out in the 80s. I actually bought one then in the 80s. And it was absolutely brilliant. And then you've got these people saying, oh, we've got these binaural bilineal machines, and we've created this and whatever. My question was, so it's sending a sound wave that's a frequency? No. Well, it actually is. If you listen to it, it actually is doing exactly that. And they've overlaid it with a little bit of music and overlaid it with something else that they say is another bilineal product of an audio track. And it's exactly the same as the same wheel I saw and bought and purchased in the late 1980s. It's no different. And people are selling this on a monthly subscription. And I personally think it's a complete rip-off. But anyway, let's get back to the future in the past. So I decided that all this thing with building work, electrical work, wasn't giving me the satisfaction of life that I wanted. And all of a sudden, I tripped up on this thing called NLP. And I had no idea what it was. I thought it was some sort of round 12-inch record. And then I thought maybe it's something else. You know, it's weird. It's NLP. What's it mean? Oh, neuro-linguistic programming. I thought, oh my God, what is that? So I tried to work out literally from what it's called to what it may mean. So linguistic, language, and neural, we talk about brain and we talk about nerves, and we talk about programming. So it's obviously then trying to create a program in a way. So the program is created from all the your little pathways, your nerve pathways, getting told, stop going that way, I want you to go that way. And then when it starts going that way and you follow that pattern, then everything's glorious, everything's great. So in the same sort of thought that I had when someone said about the coming of God, Jesus, whoever you want to call it, I was a bit skeptical. at least slightly skeptical. And I thought, how can it move brain patterns? How can it move the nerve endings? How can it do this? So I decided, oh, okay, sod it. I'll do the course. Let's see what it's all about. I was quite astonished, to say the least, that the amount of information that was offered on this free, absolutely no pennies, 4-week course, which comes with a little certificate. It's very nice. And I just thought, this is madness. So I decided to look further into it, right? Because the company I was doing the course with, obviously they didn't make it. So where did it come from? Whose idea was it? So I found out there was a guy called Richard Bandler and his mate, and they come up with the idea in the 1970s, and they created NLP from getting 3 main coaches from that time and slightly before that time, who were really, really good at what they did. So he got them together and obviously had chats with them, and what is it that's so good about you, makes you really, really outstanding against other people. And he took them ideas and realised that this is something. This now, I'm going to pull that away, add that, move that, turn that, twist that, put the stylus on that, and what to come up with. Now I've now created NLP. So Richard Bandler took it out there, and he was extremely successful at it. Still alive today, he does lectures, talks, and interviews, and he talks about NLP. And weirdly enough, he's not a stuffed up kind of guy. He's very chilled out, quite entertaining, and he throws a few jokes in there. He's quite funny. So he's not very much of a guy that watches his P's and Q's. He just says it as it is. And I think that's probably what made him so good at what he does. I've read some of his books. I've read some of his transcripts, which are a bit weird, because when they were recorded many years ago, some of the words, when it was transcribed into writing, were a little bit unaudible. And I don't know if you say unaudible, but it's in the written word, you couldn't work out what they were talking about. But when you read the main passage, it clicks, you know what they're on about. And I thought, this is not what I would expect in a session. So the full transcript of Dr. Richard Bandler and his client was ridiculously insane by its speed. People who've seen coaches, psychiatrists, psychologists for months and months and months, he got them back on the straight and narrow within 20 minutes to half an hour. Yeah, that's what I thought. Nah, we did. And he's done it live on YouTube, if you want to look him up. Amazing guy. So it's not a crock of you know what. It's true in what he does. So these organisations have jumped on it, took it up, and they are now selling it out there in their own way, but still with the backbone of what NLP is all about. So I was intrigued by this, and then whilst I was doing that, I thought, oh, a bit of life coaching, got involved in that, and continued to take it further, because all these concepts are interesting and very helpful in their own way. But what I've decided to do is I am looking at everything from somatic healing, shadow work, hypnosis. I'm bringing them all together in my practice. I don't think that one plaster fits all. And if you follow, which this is all to do with psychology, if you follow psychology, one plaster doesn't fit all. So we have to use a different box of plasters, and maybe sometimes it's a bit radical, we have to get a bandage out. So I want to know all the different type of plasters and taking it up to get myself a bandage of all these different ideas, courses, modalities, or whatever you want to call them, and use them in a session. So when I deal with a client, I like to be able to say, I'm going to be, well, I won't actually spend half an hour explaining what I'm going to introduce, but the main thing is that I will be introducing bits of standard coaching, life coaching. I will then use the tools of the life coaching, which will be NLP. And while I'm doing NLP, I'll be bringing in a little bit of hypnosis, just small techniques, none of this go to sleep business. And I'll be using other forms of psychology. I'll be using bits of shadow work. So all the things that I have learned and I'm still studying will be thrown in to a session or multiple sessions. Because like I say, one shoe doesn't fit all. So when I buy more shoes, I can then try them all on and see how it goes with a client. Hey presto. This is absolutely amazing. And even going back to the original thing that started it all off, which was guided meditation and meditation, I still bring that into my sessions as a go away present, as a bit of homework. Because I don't want you saying, okay, that was great, it's been an hour or an hour and a half, see you next week, next month, next fortnight, or never again, I'm cured. Whee! I would like people to take something away with them. And it's not something that they take away and they use for that evening, that day, or at the weekend. It's something that is used and usable constantly, all the time, right? There's never a time that you can't say, I don't need to meditate, right? Well, unless you're out 2 o'clock in the morning in the clubs, you probably don't need to meditate then. But there's always a time that you can meditate. This is something that you put in your pocket for life. And it's the same with other things as well that I could put in the session that are little ideas that you can take away and use them when you feel you need to. Not only that, the sessions are recorded. So in it, if I'm doing, just say a hypnosis session, it's recorded and I send that to the client. Why would they want a recording of it? Quite easy, because in the recording is the session. So when they feel that, oh, do you know what? I saw a big hairy spider and suddenly, let's say, okay, that was last year. Get your recording out and just top it up. You top up and can top up an hypnosis session the same as when you go back and look at a course you did a year and a half ago and you weren't quite sure how that particular method went. Because like learning to drive, after a couple of years we've designed our own method of driving and we just don't follow the way you're meant to. So sometimes we'll get the highway code as we're meant to and we'll flick through it and say, oh, do you know what? I didn't know that sign meant that. So the idea is that you should always have the information available should you want to just pop back on it, polish yourself up back on it, even if you just go, oh my God, I've completely forgotten about that, or there was something that I used to add to that and what was it? Let's look back at your training. And I think this is invaluable with everything that you do in life. If you started doing something, you have a style, right? But even with your own style, there is the original formula. Just get back to it, right? And just get yourself back in your lane and follow it. And like I say, you can still add your own style to it, but them little things that you forgot because you added such a big style to it that you're going off the rails, you're in 3 lanes down the road, and you're now not actually doing what you originally started. So NLP could end up just turning into just a chat about football or something else, and you actually completely forgot, well, hang on, what am I here to do? I'm here to help someone. I'm here to help someone get through a lump in their life, right? That big hill, the massive mountain, a trickle of water they just can't pass through, whatever it may be, they need to get through it, and they're not going to get through it if you're just going to ramble on about football. And by the way, I don't like football, so don't talk about football to me, because I'll just be looking at you like the most bored person in the world, a bit like that. So if I look like that, you've been talking about football and tennis and golf and cricket and every sport, I think. I'm just not sport minded. Don't know what happened, fell on my head, I don't know. It just doesn't interest me. Anyway, moving swiftly forward, I am continually to educate myself with new ideas. I look at how I present sessions and look at new ideas. I talk to myself like I am now, and does a new idea come to mind? I speak to other therapists or practitioners, whichever you want to call them, and they say, oh, do you know what, I've been trying, this, that and the other, why don't you have a go at it? And at that point I decide if it's for me or not. And I say the same, do you know what, I was doing this new technique. I call it a new technique because I've never seen it before. It's probably used by many people, but I've not seen it, so to me it's new. And whether someone says, oh well, actually, yeah, it's been going for the last 5 years, or they say, oh, I've never heard of that, what is it? And I explain it and they go, great idea. You never know. So that's a bit of my background. If you want to go further back, I was terrible at school. Education went out the window when I was younger. I was a little tearaway. I was getting into trouble at school. Most neighbours didn't like me because I was getting in trouble with the neighbours. And it wasn't until I got that out of my system. It doesn't matter who would approach me and say, Carl, you need to stop doing this and crack on down and start studying. I just wasn't built like that. I would be in the backyard building a mud hut, right? I would be letting the men out the back of the telly. That was me when I was a kid. I was creative mentally, and physically I like taking things apart. Had someone said that there's about 10,000 volts in the back of that telly, I probably wouldn't have done it at the time. But still, I wanted the guys to get out. I felt sorry for them. Get out the telly, go on, run, Foresters. And that was me. But when it came to academic studies, I just didn't understand the benefit. I'm not making something. What's happening? Obviously, as life goes on and you slow down and you're at the time that you then sit and think and say, hey, where am I going? What's going on? I haven't got a clue. What am I trying to achieve in life? That was a pretty heavy moment, that. Where do I want to be in life? And I decided that's when things started to slot in. I was very interested in the pagan way of life. I was very interested in spiritualism. I like horror films. So, and I like all that because of it's there, but it's not. We do it, but does it exist? Is it real? We don't 100% know. Most mediums and psychics will explain, yeah, it's real. But it is real to them. Like, God is real to Catholics. God is real to, well, every religion. There is a God that is real to them. But it's not real to me because I can't see it. I'm not saying it's not real to them, but to me. And it was all created for the faith, and if you've got faith, then you've got a pretty decent life because you believe in something. I now start to believe in things, and I still have the spiritualism. I still believe in that in a way, because I've used it as hands-on healing. Oh yeah, I do Reiki as well. I'm a Reiki master. I don't like that term. So I'm a Reiki level 3. Still don't 100% understand that. It sounds like very much the similar things that I've done in spiritual healing, except sometimes I put my hands on people's shoulders. So hey, so that's me in a nutshell. And when I say nutshell, I put an underline under nut sometimes, because I do feel I might lose the plot, am I crazy? But it's good to think that, because I think everyone's crazy in their own little way, and I think that helps you get through life, and it helps the world go forward. The less crazy people are the ones that you need to worry about, because they're thinking about horrible things, or ways to take over the world. Or actually, no, they're the crazy ones, yeah. So, I'm going to give you a quick update. So, the update Tracy is still missing in action. Now, she is going to be back soon. No fear, the Tracy will be back. She'll be back hammering away at all her knowledge about all her skills, the things that she knows, the things she's learned, the things she's looking at learning. And it's a minefield, a plethora of information. And I don't say that easily, really I don't. So it's going to be great getting it back on board. So the band's back together and it'll be just brilliant. But while the band is reforming, I would like to talk about our next guest. And I'm going to wet my whistle before I do. No, needs more. Our next guest. As I said before, earlier on, which feels like about 4 days ago, whilst I was doing a lot of training, going back in the past, I met a guy, forcefully in a way, because I was put in the same kind of room with him virtually. And when I first met him, I was like, oh, okay. And he turned out to be the most amazing guy I've ever really met in a long time. The most honest guy you will ever meet. There is no airs and graces about the guy, which makes him so unique. Although he does say it as it is, obviously he's very professional in what he does. He has learned many skills and has got multiple qualifications in coaching, life coaching, NLP, etc., etc. And he's also got many skills going back many years as well to do with spiritualism. But I could go on all day about this guy and how great he is and put flowers all around him because he's so cool. But I'm going to let him tell you the story. So please welcome on our interview, Aaron Delahunty. So here we are again, one as I always call my favourite time of the episode, and it's where we bring on our guest. So we're going to call it the guest corner, and we're going to say, in the red corner is, and it's a great friend of mine who I've spent some time with. We've done courses in the past, and we're still in contact and chatting away. So all the way from the other end of England is Darren Delahunty.
It's Aaron, but yeah.
Oh, I do apologise. So, yeah, there is a reason for that, and I'll explain that later. But yeah, Aaron Delahunty. So, Darren, why do I keep saying Darren? I have to get rid of that out in a take. So, Aaron, pattern shifting, the name of your firm. So, tell me all about it. Excellent t-shirt, by the way. Mine's still in the printers. So tell me about Pattern Shift.
Okay, so to start things, I'm a life coach, a mentor. I do NLP techniques and I do a lot of community work. I work with a men's mental health organisation and do prison talks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So part of coaching and part of the stuff that I do is helping people to see their patterns, the negative patterns, work through them, and you know install some new ones or go a different direction. So when I was trying to think of the name for the business, which I'm just obviously going live with now, Pattern Shift was the one that stuck with me, because obviously what we're trying to do is to shift people's patterns. So name is it, what we do is in the name, sort of thing.
Excellent. So what brought you around to getting involved in helping people and coaching? Tell us a little bit about your story. On where did it start?
Well, it started at rock bottom, as a lot of these stories do.
Yeah.
So I used to live a very different life, as you know. I used to be involved in a lot of dodgy dealings, a lot of things I shouldn't have done. I was also a competitive fighter, so okay. I quite like that. You almost had me coming out swinging.
Go on.
So a few years ago, I had a low point in my life. Things went really bad at home. I reacted badly to some things. It alienated me from my daughter, from my home. You know, I had to start again. And in that time, I was still doing some stupid stuff that I don't do anymore. And I got somewhere along the line, I realised I'd become a version of myself that I didn't want to be anymore. That I didn't recognise the guy in the mirror. I was always a bit loco, but I wasn't the way I had been after that year. Because, you know, pain and stuff can really sit inside you, and if you don't deal with it, as we all know, then it starts to shape your behaviour in ways that you can't even imagine. So I got into a lot of spiritual stuff, funnily enough, and I was meditating and I was doing fasting. I did a 7-day one, which was a long one. I got really involved in like positive self-talk, like holding myself accountable. I started doing NLP techniques, working through my past trauma, because I had a rough upbringing. I had a mother who was violent with me. I didn't have a father. You know, I had like ADHD, so I was different from all the other kids and stuff like that. So, you know, I started like understanding and picking apart why I was the way I was, and like starting to just like come to terms with my own healing, because I don't know about you, but I didn't even know that this was all a thing before.
No.
You know, as a man in Britain, as a man in the West anyway, maybe globally, you know, I had quite a nice habit, and I was encouraged to just shove it all down as much as I could, as far as I could. And then, of course, you know, you think that's the end of it, but it's not. So I started doing this stuff with myself, this healing work, this inner child work. I had a lot of trauma to go through, so I was just doing a lot of it. It was part of what I was doing as part of my spiritual journey, and at the other end of it, I thought, I've got to be able to help other people with this stuff that I've done for myself, because it changed my life. So I started mentoring, because I'm a boxing coach as well, and I used to coach MMA as well as, you know, like I said, a fighter. So I started mentoring my lads, well, a few of them. You know, I didn't obviously go, all right, lads, everyone's getting this, but some of the guys that I was coaching that I saw that they could benefit from it, I asked them if they were interested. They were like, yes. And so we had some really good effects. One of my lads, he was a really shy, out of shape guy. He was really struggling with his drug addictions and stuff like that. Now he's the geezer. He's at another gym now, and I'm not coaching boxing anymore, but he, you know, he was like my first success story. He's been off the coke now for like, I think well over a year now. And like, and we still talk, and he's really, he says really nice things. Like, I helped him believe that he could be this version of himself. Somewhere along the line, I come across a coaching course, and it was an NLP course actually, because I just discovered that was what I was doing. I was using these NLP techniques as part of what I was doing for myself without any formal training. So I got involved in that. I got involved in the coaching. I started understanding the frameworks more, because I was quite instinctive with it, and stuff like that. Sorry, my dog's in the background itching something. I don't know if you can hear that.
No.
And so I started doing this as I was already mentoring, and I was pretty open with the stuff I'd been doing the year before. I've been doing a lot of videos online, just like almost just like documenting what I was doing. You know, I didn't know why, but I had a feeling that I'll look back at it in a few years' time, and it'll make sense why I did that. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so from there. Sorry, bear with me one sec. Stone, out. Yeah, are we back in now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then I did this. I applied for this NLP course. It was a free course. I just wanted to see what I was doing and seeing if I just wanted to get confirmation that what I was doing was the right thing, and that sort of thing. Afterwards, I liked what I saw, so I applied for like the paid one, because these 3 courses are usually just funnels to get you in for the paid stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it was a like a group thing. So it was the NLP one, and there was a life coaching one too, which I wasn't too familiar with at the time. now I realise it was kind of like what I wanted to do anyway, but I got into the industry not because I knew much about it, but because I'd already changed my life with a lot of with the techniques that we use. And so when we did it, because I believe you were on the same courses as me, we did the coaching course first. And as I'm learning it and like becoming a better coach and stuff like that, I'm starting to grow more confidence with it, starting to understand a little bit more what I'm going to do, the business side of it and stuff like that. And then we do the next course, and as we're doing that, I launched Pattern Shift, and I started doing some more community work. I'm involved with a men's mental health group where I live in Crawley called Men's Share Listening Group,
okay.
CIC. So yeah, so Sean, the founder of that's really got behind me trying to launch my business. I've helped some men through them. I've done some work with Sean himself, I've coached him through some panic attacks. I'm coaching him in the gym now as well, because I'm a personal trainer also. And yeah, it's really good because he's been a friend of mine for years, but he's got a massive organisation. Well, he's got a big network and a big organisation that fits into what I'm doing as well. So I'm getting support from them while offering support as well, because I got really into service work as well last year when I was doing all of the stuff I discussed earlier. So yeah, so that's kind of like where I'm at with it. And now the business is live, getting inquiries in. I'm just setting up websites. The website is www.patternshift, or what's it called? I forget what it is. The little
you've been put on the spot. A dash hyphen.
Yeah, www.patternshift-coaching.com.
Right, okay. Well, I'm sure that in the credits we'll be mentioning that anyway, so it'll come up if people need to inquire. So how do you find the industry itself? Because I don't know about you, but every time there's TikTok or Facebook, there's somebody talking about a life coaching course, an LLP course. Do you think it's flooded, or is there still enough space for people?
Do you know what? I mean, I saw an article from a friend that was saying about how healthy the industry is right now.
Yeah.
But I'll be totally honest with you, man. Even if it was saturated, I don't think I care. I've got such belief that what I offer isn't necessarily the most generic thing, and I'm not the most qualified or experienced guy, which I will be. Experience comes with time. That's how experience works. But I feel like what I've got to offer, my own personal upbringing, the sorts of people that I can speak to, people that have come from where I've come from, that might not have anyone that looks or acts like them in this sort of industry as a voice or as someone. So I always just thought, you know, even if there's 100,000 million people in it, man, you still got to find your way of standing out, you know?
Yeah, I think you're right. And you could have 100 coaches, but they're all different. And you've got your own sort of individualism when it comes out there. I mean, we've been in discussions before, and like you say, we've been on courses before, and you have definitely got a different approach and a different air around you from other coaches. So, and you can feel it. It's more like some coaches can be very methodical, and they just go and ask the same questions and kind of bore you a little bit. But you're a very sort of straight through the cloth kind of guy, right? I'm not going to start being airy and fairy and ask you cuddly questions. You're quite direct, and you get to the point easier and faster to help people easier and faster. So people aren't hanging around for a long time trying to work out what's going on. You sort of get there quicker, getting to the point. Which,
yeah, I mean, that was my experience with you, but we had good rapport. I think part of the coaching thing is from what I understand, it's pretty dominated by women, which is fine, but I think a lot of men that are like me in particular like a direct, fast approach, and women can offer that, but I know that typically women are a lot more in touch with their feelings and a little bit more expansive with their feelings as well, whereas I've coached a lot of women. Even though I'm a men's coach, I've coached quite a lot of women to pretty good success. I've had one client here or there that sometimes you just got clashes of personality. Another thing is some people have different readiness to actually do the work or engage with you, and that's not a criticism of you. Some people, you're just not their fit. Some people, they're just not ready, and sometimes it's your fault and you made a mistake and you learn from it, you know. And I think even in any bad sessions, it's always your fault that you didn't get the right rapport. That, you know, if every time the finger goes outwards instead of in, then I think you're pointing it at the wrong person. But with some of the women that I have coached, especially as I went on, because I was always a bit direct at first, I've learned to wait more. I've learned to be more, I'm compassionate anyway, but I've learned to hold a silence for longer, like allow the emotion. I've learned to like be prepared when emotional things get brought up, that this session may have to end. So don't try and steer it. Don't try and do anything with it. Just sit with them and, you know, let come out what's going to come out, and just hold a safe and compassionate space for them. With you, didn't really need to do that. We knew each other. The more we coached with each other, you liked to direct thing. We were mates. It was pretty easy. But yeah, I think I try and be direct, but it's kind of like very much who's in front of you as well.
Yeah. I think you're right on that, because some people don't like that and can't handle a direct approach. Some people need a direct approach because they've been treated softly too much.
I just wanted to say, so I've had this as well, because obviously the way I look,
yeah,
you know, I'm covered in tattoos and pretty muscular. I've so if I don't say so myself, you know, I'm an ex-competitive fighter, and I was a bloke's bloke for a very long time. So my very aura and presence can trigger people that have got issues with this particular archetype of man. So I've coached women that have had issues with people a bit like that, and to amazing success. In fact, I got like testimonials from them saying how skillful and compassionate I was as a coach. So sometimes as well, I'm fighting like the perception of myself, and that's not just the same here. I have that in my day-to-day life because I'm a big character, you know. But yeah, I think I think it's very much building trust and just coming in slow. And if you've got a person that's like pew pew pew, you can kind of like read it in someone, right? But other times, someone seems a bit unsure, or if there's you know, sometimes just a bit of silence, a bit of patience is actually like what gives you a really powerful session.
Yeah. Okay. So you've talked about in the past of traumas, and it, in many ways it led you towards a sort of self-healing. Would you say there's any particular technique that you found helped you through your difficult times?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I mean, it depends how far you want to go back. So the thing with healing, right, you know, whether people think how you do it or not everyone has the same tools. Not everyone's got the same capacity. Some people's trauma is still very, very painful to them, and going through it or bringing it back up can destabilize them, right? So, I mean, so I'll just give a quick overview. So my mum, you know, beat me as a kid. She was very domineering, very aggressive with me. She, as an adult, obviously the hitting stopped a lot, but like there's still the bullying and all this stuff. Look, listen, she did her best. This isn't you know, another podcast to say what you know, whatever she was. But you know, that was my main caregiver from a young age, and so I learned early on that, you know, my environment wasn't safe. My caregiver, the one that I looked for safety, was also unpredictable. The one that I need to keep me safe is also the cause of my pain, which obviously then spills into every relationship I have for the rest of my life, with the people I attract, the people I'm attracted to. Then I went from that, and then I got bullied in school a little bit, and then I grew up, got a bit tougher. I started bullying the bullies, so to speak, that you know, I went and got a load of them that got me. Then I'm like mixing in fighting circles. I'm learning, you know, I was a competitive fighter, so you're having to read people on a dime. And then I'm in these criminal circles later on in life, right? And so the fighting, it really helped me channel that negative energy into something, because there aren't no bad kids, man. There's just bad upbringings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I felt quite weak and unsafe for the early point of my life because of all that other stuff. And so channeling that into physical activity, especially one that got me validation, you know, by the time I started competing and getting half decent, like everyone in my local town knew who I was. The girls would talk to me, all the blokes were like, oh, this is Aaron, you know, all this other stuff. People were watching my fights. Like, I was never like on anything massive. I'm not like Anthony Joshua, I'm Aaron from Crawley, but you know, in a local small town, people start knowing who you are and you get a reputation for it. So that was nice, you know, and it was, I had a mentor called Pete and a mentor called Nick. They were both coaches of mine when I fought, and we're still very, very close to this day. And they were like the first masculine role models I had, where I saw that masculine strength could be loving as well as powerful, and it wasn't always about dominant. Even though they were both imperfect in themselves, as we all are, you know, they were the first two, because I never had a father, so they were the first two like masculine. They were both the fucking man. I don't know if I can swear on here.
You just did.
Yeah, but they were the man. Like, Nick was a cage fighter, 100 kilos, you know, millionaire. He's the man, you know. He was so loving and supportive with what I was doing. You know, he was like, you're going to be a champ one day. They sponsored me in the end, so I wasn't even paying for my training. And Pete, really, I used to hang around with Pete as well, because we lived in the same town. And like, he was another 6'2" stud, and you know. No, they're and I'm still really close to them today. And yeah, it was like, sorry, my laptop is going off. I've got to put this charger on quickly. So yeah, and so they were the first time that I'd ever seen like masculine figures where I'd got it demonstrated to me in a way that wasn't, you know, I'd had violence around, and these were men in violence. These were my fighting coaches, but you know, I'd had a different version of it around my whole life. I'd never had anyone to show me, you know, what it was to be a man. You just pick it up on the way, right? And so that was good. And then, but then I was still getting involved in all this other shit, because I don't know, you know, if you know much, but a lot of pro fighters, they move in a lot of circles with like loads of different sorts of people, but in there, opportunities that maybe aren't the best, but are easy, or you know, fit what you're doing, present themselves, and your life gets built around stuff like that. So when I got to a point, I had a load of surgeries because of my fighting. I'd done my ACL, my Achilles tendon, a slip disc, a detached bicep. Eventually I just couldn't do it anymore, right? And that was the only thing that I ever did that made me feel like the man. Do you know what I mean? Because of all the reasons I said. That was so deeply weaved into my identity that I was really worried what I was going to do when I lost it, right? And I started moving into coaching, boxing coaching and stuff like that. So I did make a transition, but obviously all of what the fighting did for me and how it helped me with all these negative behaviours and all this pain that I'd been carrying for a long time, right? It never changed the pattern. It just give it a safe place to vent. Do you know what I mean? Right. So, like, all the time I'm working out twice a day, and I know I'm strong now. So now I don't want to fight these people on the streets and stuff like that, right? And I don't drink during my fights. So I'm having all of these like 3-4 months of sobriety for each fight. So I'm learning sobriety and stuff like that. So I'm getting benefits from it. But then you go back, I hurt my knee, I hurt my leg, I hurt my back, and now you're back in the pub with your mates, and then you start doing the stupid behaviour again because you never really dealt with it, right? And so when I stopped doing it and I couldn't do it anymore, and a few things went wrong as people that are living my sort of lifestyle, things go wrong, you know, you live by the sword and you die by the sword, right? As you yourself know.
Yeah.
And so from that, things went really bad at home. Some things happened that I'm not proud of, and the people around me, you know, shit happens, right? But there's some things that happened that really, really pushed my life into the low point of the low points, right? And so, you know, sat there, like, what am I going to do and all that. And yeah, so I'm getting to your question now, which was the techniques. When I got into this spiritual stuff, right, I started doing stuff like, I started looking online, I was following a spiritual framework, I was getting ideas off of chatbots, I was getting ideas off of Google, off of books and stuff like that. And I started doing things like, I started doing inner child work, I started writing letters to my inner child from the version of myself now, started speaking aloud, I started doing rituals as part of my spiritual arc, which was just, it was just me going to a tree barefoot at like sunrise, reading one of these letters, burning it, you know, and just like, what I learned was that a lot of the stored stuff, a lot of the emotions that you don't process at the time, the ones that you bottle down, they get stored as trauma, you know, and they get stored in the nervous system from what my understanding is. I'm no, you know, scientist or psychologist, so I don't know the actual genuine mechanics, but it's my understanding that this sort of behaviour gets stored in the nervous system, or at least the patterns are alive in your brain still, right? And then when you start to process it with, like, I never did anything like talk therapy, I did it all on my own, but I did do NLP techniques, I did do positive visualization, I did do positive self-talk, you know, I did let go of a lot of the resentments I had and stuff like that. I started practicing gratitude, I started doing affirmations and stuff like that.
Right, so this is absolutely, I mean, the insight that you've given to me about your life, and like I said, we've spoken about this in the past, is in a way quite touching, because it's like from Crawley to glory kind of thing, because a lot of people that I've met in the past, in the places I've been down in places where you felt like you call the incredible step, and you managed to get out of it. And what would you say to people who are going through traumas, difficulties, they don't know how to make their life go forward or whatever? What would you say to them to give them some encouragement?
What would I say to give them some encouragement? I guess, depending on where you are in the journey, if you're at the very beginning, I would say that the first step doesn't need to be massive. Usually the first step is the tiniest thing you do, which might be admitting there's a problem out to someone. And it may seem like the step is so small it doesn't even count. But without that first step, all the others aren't even possible. And if you accumulate enough small steps, eventually you could climb Everest with them, you know? And then I would say to someone that's in the middle of it, that's made all these changes, that hasn't got any of the rewards, or hasn't had confirmation from other people that it's believed or that it's going to work, is that just keep going. It's going to get a lot shitter before it gets better, but it's just the price you pay, you know.
Absolutely.
I saw this on a podcast, and it was success and failure are on the same road. They're just different exits. And that just means, like, you've just got to knuckle down. You've just got to stick with it. I've had to do it. You've had to do it. You know, when you don't think it's going to work, you still turn up. When you're in a fed up mood, you still turn up. When you're sad and you're low, you still got to turn up. You know, you've got to give success good enough chance to find you. And that's success in healing, success in business, success in love. It's all transferable.
Absolutely. What an end to a great session. So Aaron Delahunty from Pattern Shift, thank you very much for your time. And adverts, get them in there. I'm sure we'll speak again soon, but at this point I'd like to say thank you very much for turning up for the interview, and speak to you again soon.
Well, thank you for having me, Carl.
No problem. Cheers. Ta-ra, mate.
Yeah. So we that was Aaron, as you heard, and you know what, we had some absolutely great fun in doing that. So we are now getting close to the end. I did say I'd take my hat off to you, Aaron, and I have done. There you go. Another great show. I hope you enjoyed it. A bit of ad hoc. Like I said, we threw some things in there that we would not normally talk about, but we thought, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get it out there and bring on. And I did tell you, he was just a down the road straight guy. And that is what is so interesting about him and makes him such a great coach. So Aaron Delahunty from Pattern Shift, look him up and, you know, have a chat with him. He's a great geezer. All right, mate. So he's gone back into the red corner for a little rest, and we'll see him again soon. So have a great day, guys. Next week we will have time to get our crystal ball out again and see what's going on, and yeah, see what the world's given us and what it's taken away from us. So take care, be careful, and enjoy life. Bye for now.